there, Bookty, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to day 16 of Vlogmas and day 3 of Litmas. Today's Vlogmas challenge, I'm going to share some scenes from the last week of my life. Not necessarily behind the scenes, but some things that I've been doing in the past week or so. But for today's Litmas challenge, I'm supposed to share my favorite short story. I have lots of favorite short stories. I write short stories myself. Last year I published a collection of my own short stories that had to do with relationships, complicated relationships. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check that out. But other than that, I love the short story genre. I've read a lot of short stories, and some of the ones that stick with me are ones that I have read that surprised me, ones that maybe were a little bit of a departure from what I usually enjoy, and so they stuck with me more than what I typically read. I read Shirley Jackson's The Lottery in a freshman English class, and maybe the reason that it struck me so vividly was because I didn't have a lot of background with dystopian read. And the plot, but also the way the story ended and how the characters changed in relation to each other was very impactful. And so many years later, because it has been many years since that freshman English class, I still consider this to be a very impactful story, and I've shared it with other people. I'm going to leave a link down below of an audio version of The Lottery that I shared with Chrissy from Chrissy's Books and Berries earlier this year. And I think if I leave it down below, you'll be able to listen to it if you're not familiar with the story. The story is about a community of people who every year on a specific day, they include all the names of all the people in the community, and they draw at random someone who should give a sacrifice to benefit the rest of the community. I don't want to tell you much more than that, and just know that it is a very impactful story. So if you read it or listen to it, and the audio version is particularly gripping, if you listen to it for the first time, be prepared to be very amazed. The reason that I'm recommending you listening to an audio version instead of reading the story is because this link is to a radio presentation some decades ago, and to listen now in 2017 to something that was presented so many years ago has this very grainy quality that kind of brings you into this dystopic world. And so I recommend it in that regard. One of my other favorite short stories that I think about every year around this time is The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. And I first read this in one of my father's short story collections from his own college English experience. I don't know if it was freshman English or what. But when I was a child, I was growing up, seeing my dad's literature books and his novels and so on from college. I used to read them, and I remember reading this story for the first time, and as a child being very moved by this story. If you're not familiar, the story is about a couple, a young couple. They're so in love, they want to give each other the perfect Christmas gift, but they're poor. They don't have the money to buy the thing that they think the other person desires, and so they have to make these decisions. And at the end of the story, you probably will think that the decisions might not have been the best decisions that they could have made. Like, why give this thing away? But I think that is the true meaning of Christmas. Sacrificing for other people, giving of yourself for the benefit of someone else. So it's one of my favorite short stories, but it's also a very timely story. As you know, we're going into the Christmas season, going into Christmas week. I'll leave a link in the description box of where you can read the story in its entirety. It's a really short story. And so yeah, those are two of my favorite short stories that I'm sharing today for day 3 of Litmas. And now we're going to roll some scenes from my New York 2017 Christmas experience.
Thank you for our King.
thanks for watching. Leave me a comment down below if you've read any of the stories that I mentioned and what you think about them. And I'll see you tomorrow for day 17 of Vlogmas. Until then, happy reading. Bye.